This episode of The Capsule in Conversation is brought to you by Harrogate Springwater. Harrogate is the home of the British Spa and Britain's premium natural source water. Hello everyone, welcome back to The Capsule in Conversation. I'm Natalie Anderson and today I'm joined by Olympic triple jumper, motivational coach and Women's Aid ambassador Michelle Griffith-Robinson to talk levelling up, letting go and learning to be kind. So settle down, turn us up and get ready to join in with our conversation. I hope you're all well and have had a lovely Easter week. It's definitely been a tale of two halves with the weather, from sunshine to snow in the blink of an eye. Still, in true Brit style, we've been ready for anything. And let's face it, we've had more than enough challenges thrown at us over the last 12 months. I would say we'd become quite adept at adapting quickly. And my guest today is more than skilled at being quick off the mark. She's a former Olympic triple jumper, the first to jump over 14 metres, an acclaimed motivational coach and speaker, an advocate of kindness, and more recently has just been announced as a charity ambassador for Women's Aid. She's strong, super smart and sassy. It is the gorgeous Michelle Griffith-Robinson. Hi, Michelle.
Oh my God, Nat, you're too cute, babe. Thank you, sweetheart. Hi, babe. Thank you to have me on here. Thanks to your listeners and for tuning in and listening in. Do you know what? I think I definitely agree with you. You know, this country has got definitely used to being adaptable.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the key things as well. We've got to be adaptable. We've got to learn how to bounce back and be resilient. And if not, we will crumble, you know. And I think the thing you mentioned there about being kind, you know, we're going to need to show more of that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think, like you said, you know, the last 12 months have been, and I know this is true for you as well, have been challenging for a lot of people, but equally have had some blessings. And it's how you view things, isn't it? You know, you can see things a certain way and it can all be doom and gloom, or you can also take the positives and go, okay, so what can we learn from this? What, you know, in this experience? Because I know for you, the last 12 months, yes, it's been difficult, but you've also had some moments that have been really lovely for you and your family.
Yeah, absolutely, Nat. You know, and I said this, you know, and this is something that's probably new since we last spoke as well. I would say from when lockdown happened for me, March the 23rd, 2020, right through till January the 9th, 2021, when my stepfather unfortunately went into hospital and didn't come out again through COVID, I've had that period of feeling very, very lucky. And you use the word blessings. And I often say, count your blessings. It's one of the key things I say. I learned it from my mum. Count your blessings. Yeah, there's some people that don't have, you know, and we do have. And although despite there being some really serious challenges out there for a lot of people, including myself, we have to count our blessings to what we do have. Yeah. So, you know, I've had a Bowden campaign. You know, we've from the back of Black Lives Matter, we've seen more and more Black people being shown up and shining their light. You know, it's been magical. I've had one of the things that I talk about, having dinners with my family, sitting down and having dinners with my family has been absolutely incredible. And that time I couldn't get back. Next year, my daughter goes off to university. Wherever she goes, she's got aims and heights and aspirations to go to America. I would not have had 6-9 months at home with my baby. Yeah. So you do have to really, you know, home in on what's been really positive. And still don't ignore the fact that sometimes we've gone through times of, bloody hell, this is hard work.
Yeah.
Hard work. It's relentless. And these are all the adjectives that we've used: relentless, resilient, hard going, determined. But sometimes it's been bloody hard work. And I'm sure people accept that, but it's owning that as well.
Do you think that spirit comes from being an Olympian? You know, being able to look at some of the things that haven't gone your way necessarily in your career, which we will talk a lot more about in a bit. But do you think that mentality of having to kind of switch it up and go, okay, that didn't work out, move on? Do you think that's come from your training?
I would say a huge part of it has come from my career of being an elite female athlete. You know, definitely. You know, there's times where I've gone to a competition and I come last. You know, and I cry and I think, gosh, what's this about? I'd want to give up. But it's that not giving up and going on to the next competition and showing up and then performing really well that makes you then think, actually, you know, that's real life. So I have had an opportunity to look at the pendulum swing of life very clearly, because there's been times where I haven't made major competitions by 1 centimetre and I thought, that's the end of it. Times where I've come back and I thought, actually, no. And it's been my mum, who I speak so fondly about, that has turned around and said to me, that's done. Put a lid on it. And I even show the resilience my mum's shown in the last 3 months since my stepfather passed, of her bouncing back and daily bouncing back and getting back into the swing of everyday life. And that strength, intrinsic strength, has been passed down to me from my mum more than track and field.
It literally leads me on beautifully, actually, to talking, you know, from the very beginning with you about your mum. You know, your mum introduced you to athletics, and you do have an incredibly close bond and close relationship. Just tell me about those early years with your mum.
I would say mommy encouraged me. I wouldn't say forced. She encouraged me to come down the running track with me. Actually, no, it was bloody hell, you're coming down the track. Your brothers don't want to look after you. Let's not style it out. So I went down the track with my mum, and my mum still says today, Natalie, that's the best pound she's ever invested. And that was the start of my career. You know, I wasn't to know at 12 years old if I was going to end up representing my county, my school, my country, being on the big stage. I didn't know that then. But what I did know was that when I used to turn up and show up at the track, I had a community of people there, a tribe of people there with very similar interests. And that's why I'm such an advocate of grassroots sports, because you don't know where it leads to. But also as well, it teaches you how to communicate and mix with other people from different backgrounds. So at the track, there'll be people there from, you know, from kids that came from, you know, the poorest council estates, the richest housing estate. But that didn't matter. The focus was, you're there to all mix together. And that's where I learned interpersonal skills really quickly. So these are the skills. Of course, I could learn how to run, jump, everything else. And I've had a lovely career. I've had a great career. I've visited amazing places. But those life lessons that follow you through into real life now are the biggest lessons that I learned.
And what was it about athletics in particular, do you think, that she was like, it's going to be this? For example, it's not going to be singing, dancing, all of that. What was it particularly, do you think, about athletics that she was like, no, this is going to suit Michelle?
I've got to be honest with you, Nat, it was coincidence. It was just where she did her Keep Fit classes, there was a running track there.
Oh, I love that.
That's where I was at ballet also. I went to ballet every Saturday. So my mum was very much into, you know, for an older Caribbean lady, she was very much into doing your extracurricular activities. So I did ballet every single Saturday. I used to be the bane of my brother's life. Sometimes when my mum was working, my mum was a ward sister. So he'd have to plait my hair and try and put it up in a bun and everything else, all looking all straggly and trying to do his best with my hair. So I did a lot of ECA activities, you know, extracurricular activities. But athletics was where I probably excelled. And then the school as well. We mustn't forget schools as well. And people often talk about their PE teachers. The PE teachers are the one that see the talent in them, and then encourage them to go down to a track, go and join a club, you know. And so we do have a lot to give thanks for, you know, and I especially have a lot to give thanks for my PE teachers, Mr. Bauman, Mr. Rigby, another lady as well, Mrs. Robinson, who actually noticed and spotted the talent in me. So you have to recognize those people, but at the same time, fundamentally, it came from home, where my mum would say to me, right, you're going down the track. And she always said to me and my brothers, I'm one of four, she'd say, get doing something because it keeps you out of trouble. A tired puppy can't get up to mischief. And I'm like, she's right. So I'm now, as a mother of 3 children myself, I do my best, and of course it's affordability for everybody. I do my best to try and keep my kids engaged and active in all different things. Even up to today, my daughter just got a distinction in her grade 6 clarinet. I play clarinet as well. I had that, but I didn't have the privilege of playing it as frequently as she did. So I only got to grade 4, where she's got the resources to go all the way up. But it's about giving the best you can, and sometimes you don't actually have to spend out the money. It's about the time, investing that time in your kids.
And as you said there, you know, about your mum, I think something for a lot of children, it's confidence. And a lot of children they're not confident, and they start off confident and then they have that stripped away from them in schools. And I know that you work a lot with the Dame Kelly Holmes Trust, which is
Yeah,
all about kind of
yeah,
confidence building with young people.
yeah.
And would you say that your mum really kind of started that spark with you to be a confident woman, to be a confident young lady, and you can achieve?
Absolutely. My mum would always say to me, and even now, she's 81 years old coming up now, and she would say, aim for the sky, keep going, break glass ceilings. So when we hear people talk about breaking glass ceilings and women and black women and everything else, I've grown up with this. I've grown up with my mum saying to me, you can achieve anything you want to do. She would never say to me, you can't do that. She would say to me, give it a go. So I think I did have that confidence about trying different stuff. Of course, there's elements of stuff that she didn't realize were going to be almost detrimental to me growing up. When you live in a volatile environment, sometimes you see those things, you think, well, actually, that can sometimes strip away your confidence and make you more of a silent bystander rather than an active person using their voice. So, there's two sides of it.
And as you just said then, about breaking glass ceilings, I mean, I mentioned in the introduction, you were the first woman to jump over 14 meters. And you did that in Sheffield, and it was like 14.8 meters.
Yeah.
Now, was your mum there for that achievement?
No, my mum wasn't there when I jumped 14.08 centimeters. That was in Sheffield, which is no longer there, sadly no longer there. And I was the first woman to jump over 40 meters in the Commonwealth. So the first British woman to break that barrier. We did then have Ashia Hansen, who was the first woman to jump over 15 meters, but I was the first.
Yeah.
And I also say to people, being the first of something is brilliant. Why not? If not you, then who? So I often say that to somebody, but unfortunately my mum wasn't there. But what I do share is the day I did my very last competition in 2006, Natalie, my mum, my stepdad, my husband and my daughter were in the stand and saw my last ever jump. And that's the first time that my mum could afford to travel abroad to such a big, expensive experience, I would call it, traveling all the way to Australia, to Melbourne for 3.5 weeks, to watch me compete. And for that, that was the day when I felt exceptionally grateful to see my mum and my stepdad in the crowd, and obviously my husband and my daughter. And I thought, do you know what? It's time to end it there. So no, not in 1994, but in 2006, when I ended my career, they were all there. And my mum said, she shed a tear at the track and said to me, I'm exceptionally proud of you. I'm exceptionally proud of the girl you are, the woman you are, and having your husband here and your daughter here. And I remember thinking, there's no better way for me. This is it. Because my mum, my stepdad, and my real father, my dad, have supported me throughout my journey so much. They've sacrificed a lot for me to become an Olympian as well as, and I spoke about this in my kindness campaign with Hello Magazine and Heath Jewelry, my best friend's dad, Mick Stead. Without Mick Stead, I would not have got to the track 3 times a week. And that for me is, again, when you're looking at grassroots support systems, that was Mick Stead, a white working class man that put himself out for me 3 times a week to take this little black girl from Wembley to the track.
Oh, Michelle, like you said then, that sense of community, that sense of going, do you know what? I want to help this girl. I want to make sure she fulfills her potential. She's brilliant. And it does take so many people to help one person, kind of fulfill their dream. I had a similar thing with my friend's dad that used to take me to school, and it was a performing arts school, and it was either I get 2 buses to school or his dad would take me. And without those people believing in you and just helping you along the way, and also helping my mum, it was to help my mum out, for you as well.
Yeah, absolutely, investing themselves into me. And people say to me, why do you mention the colour? I said, because sometimes we have to recognise that growing back in the 70s and 80s, there was a lot about colour. There's still a lot about it now. But back then, Mick didn't see anything. He just saw a talented girl that he was investing time in, as well as his daughter. Me and his daughter, Caroline, who's my best friend now, we're still best friends. We're still godparents to each other's kids. But that came from track and field. Seeing no colour, just getting on.
That's just such a beautiful part of your story. I really love that. And again, like you say, that you're still friends to this day. That friendship was formed back early on then.
38 years ago.
That's all right. That's all good. But in terms of your, achievements, as you said, Michelle, you have had adversity. I mean, you described it a little while ago, just about losing by a centimetre. That is just so overwhelmingly agonizing. And from the general public's point of view, you know, we do see a lot of the wins and we see all the glory. And even if we don't see all that and we've seen that somebody doesn't quite make it in competition, it's kind of, oh, well, we
Yeah.
don't actually know the sacrifice and what it took to get to that point and how agonizing that pain can be.
Yeah.
How did you pick yourself up from those losses? You know, what did you do? What were your anchors?
I think it's a great question. And what were my anchors, Natalie? Support, quite simply, support system. Having people in your corner to say it's okay. You didn't make it today. You didn't do well today, but tomorrow's another day. Next week's another competition. And of course, that's very simple words, but it's the truth. What more could I have done? And I often say to people, even when I've been in the best physical shape I've been in the best mental state I've been in to compete, to do really well, sometimes it just doesn't go your way. And it's how do you build yourself back up, or how do you pick yourself back up from that? Intrinsically, you have to think to yourself, I'm not a bad athlete overnight. You don't become a bad athlete from one bad competition. So it's all the time you're having to, but of course I had, sports psychologists on my side helping me as well. I always had that. I had a massive team around me, fantastic friends. And again, I say to anybody at any stage, at any age, have a very strong support system around you, but people that are real. And that's the difficulty. That's the difficulty in that. Having people that are real. So you're having my coach that said, Mish, you know what? I'm going to tell you the truth. You were shit today. You're looking all over the place. Your head wasn't in it. What's going on? You can't have fluffiness around you if you want to achieve the very best. So when you're talking about it's blood, sweat, tears, tantrums, throwing the dummy at the pram, literally, storming off, slamming doors, because you want it so badly. But the more you keep doing it, you recognize, actually, let's think about this. Let's control this emotion. Is that going to change the outcome? No, it's not. But of course, I didn't know that when I was 17, Natalie, when I was coming last in something. I didn't know that then. But in my 20s, I knew how to handle that better. There's one time at the Commonwealth Games in 1998, I was sitting on the floor, literally sobbing my eyes out on national TV because I'd come fifth and I was favourite to get a medal. But how do you pull yourself up? You turn around and say, well, actually, I'm going to have my time of feeling sad and not feeling great. I'm going to bounce back again.
And I think it's what you just said then, is allowing yourself to feel that. Because like, for example, now, the last 12 months have been so challenging for so many people, and they will have lost businesses, lost jobs, lost loved ones, and having to rebuild their lives through no fault of their own, through, it just, unfortunately, this is the situation. And it's allowing yourself to say, I need to have this moment to actually feel so that you can move on. Do you think that's important too?
Very, very important, Natalie, and it's about reflective. And as a life coach, I often say to my clients, what more could you do? How, what, why, when? And sometimes when we're in it, we are so emotional, we can't see the wood through the trees. I've had that grief myself, losing my stepfather of 33 years, he'd been with my mum. But if I also get a little bit of hope when I see real life situations like losing somebody. And I look at my mum and I think, she gets up every morning, she gives gratitude. And after a competition, I'd give gratitude. And I'd say to people out there whose lives have changed, what more can you do? What more? Reinvent yourself, because everybody has a shining light within them to recreate themselves. And it's down to us as a human beings to help out where we can. Support each other. My mum's, and I do talk about my mum, guys, trust me, I know a lot. I'm owning that.
That's all right. I love it, me.
My mum says to me very quickly, very early, from a young age, if you can't do good, don't do bad. Yeah, and I used to look at her and think, what does she mean by that? And another one she'd say to me, all these little old wives, I say old wives' tales, not wives' tales, but little sayings. She'd say to me, you never know what's going on behind closed doors. You never know when you might need somebody to pick you up. And I used to think, she's right. And it's absolutely true. One day we might be basking in glory, Nat. Like you said, things are going great and everything else. Boom, something changes it. Because life is like that. But it's having that support around you. Yeah, and knowing, and I'll say it again, guys, having authentic people by your side.
I was just about to say that, exactly that. You have to have you can't have the fair weather friends. You have to have the ones that are there that will love you in the glory, but will equally pick you up off the floor when you're like, oh, it's all gone wrong. And they're the ones that, will be with you through thick and thin. And I know for you, one of those people happens to be your husband, Matthew, who you met, at the Commonwealth Games. And you've spoken often before about what an ambassador he is for you. He loves you so much and just wants you to do well. And you've also said that it wasn't an easy ride at the beginning of your marriage. You've been together 15 years. Just tell me about growing into that relationship and how how important his support has been to you.
And I think that the one thing I would always say to everybody, Natalie, that has the unpleasure of being around me and hearing me speak, I don't bullshit. I just tell it how it is. I've been with Matthew now 19 years. We've been married 16 years this year. And I often say it wasn't easy in the beginning. I'd come out of a relationship that was abusive, and I needed to work on me. I needed to seriously work on me. A lot of baggage that I transferred over. And Matt's met me, this beautiful Welshman rugby player, at the dining hall. I walk up to him, and I'm confident externally, and I look great, and I had short hair. In fact, I had a pink top like today, a pair of jeans, and a pair of pink shoes like today as well. And I walked in my diesel jeans, and I've walked up to him with my best friend, Mars, and I've said, "Hi, my name's Michelle." And he said, "I know who you are. I've seen you in the newspaper yesterday." I was like, "Oh, okay." And I asked him for his number, and he says to me, "Unfortunately, I can't give you my number now, but I'll take yours." And he was in a relationship which I didn't know. 3 months later, he rings me up, bloody cheek. 3 months later, leaves me hanging. And that the rest is history. But we have been through a journey. And even the other day we spoke about it and just said, our marriage now is so much stronger. The love I feel for Matt, he is my number one supporter. He has definitely got my back. He'll tell me the truth. He'll tell me, Mish, you know what? You've been too emotive, babe. Come on, too much emotion in that. And I'm like, okay. My number one supporter. He wants me to do well. He often says, your biggest advocate is you. Just be you. He got me a little poster made for Christmas to my amazing wife, Michelle. Just be you. Yeah. And he knows my vulnerabilities. He knows my insecurities. And I feel safe in this partnership. And I think for many people out there, men and women listening to this, get somebody that makes you feel who you really, truly are. Don't put on a fakeness for anybody. And I came with a lot of baggage, and I'm not embarrassed to say that. I came with a lot of baggage that I needed to work on me. And we are all work in progress. We're all work. I did 2.5 years investment in a counsellor, 2.5 years every single Thursday morning. But that for me was reinvesting in me, which I didn't call it that back then, 22 years ago. I didn't think it was reinvesting. I just thought, oh yeah, I need to go and get sorted out. But looking back on it, investing in yourself so that at a later date you can draw it back out.
And like you said then, with Matt, you did at that point, you were vulnerable internally, and having to work out those kind of very intimate moments, I suppose, which are kind of difficult because, there's probably trust issues in that, and all kinds of things that, and then you think, or you're pushing boundaries with somebody to say, prove things to me because of what you've been through before. And all that work, like you said, and to then go through it together on this journey is, again, what makes you stronger. I mean, if we can just, as I talked about earlier, you have become an ambassador for Women's Aid, and I know that that's incredibly important to you to help women find their voices. Would you say that Matt helped you find your voice?
I wouldn't say Matt helped me find my voice. What Matt helped me to do was to face what was stopping me from finding my voice.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say he helped me, but to make me, what you need to face all these demons that you've got going on. You need to open up that box that's there, so that you can close the box down and move on. So that's what he did help me to do. And like you rightfully said, I've joined Women's Aid as an ambassador, and that's something, a charity very dear to my heart, amongst being an ambassador for the menopause charity and Diabetes UK. But for me, looking out for women and girls, and of course we do know abuse goes both ways, so I'm not pretending it doesn't, but looking out for women and girls and trying to get them in a safer environment so that they can, use their voice and come out of these coercive relationships and, real gaslighting situations. For me, I feel proud that I'm an ambassador, that I can make a difference. I want to make sure that, I get it in schools. I want to get it out there. I want people to start, recognizing, teachers to be teaching these girls. We teach a lot about, sexual intercourse and all these PSHE stuff, but get down to the nitty gritty. What does a healthy relationship look like?
It's so important because, we've just seen just in the last couple of weeks, the schools kind of scandal, shall we say, with so many girls saying that their first experiences or relationships have not been positive. 90% reporting, that they've had a very negative experience with young men. And as you rightly said, it is about educating the boys as well as the girls of like, absolutely, this is not a good behavior. You just, what you see maybe on social media, on YouTube or whatever it is, this is not how you behave with a girl. I know like consent that you need to talk about, and it's across the board, isn't it? It's really important that we have those conversations, like you said, in schools.
Absolutely, Natalie, and it's our role as parents. I like I said, I'm a mother of 3 children: a 7-year-old boy, 14-year-old girl, and another 17-year-old girl. And it's me and Matt's job to turn around and say, you know what? If a guy talks to you like that, what do you think you should do? That's not right. Yeah, if you turn around and say to a guy, no, I don't want to do that, why should he pursue that? Yeah, but it's given them the strength and the courage to make them feel that's okay. And I hope out of the whole thing of seeing some of these poor people, poor women, being murdered, there's been three or 4 really shocking cases over the last year. 2 sisters in Northwest London, Sarah Everard, and then there's another girl as well in Brighton Beach. I hope that we can turn around and start really raising the bar of awareness of actually what is a healthy relationship. Why should you come out of that or go and find support? And don't get me wrong, it's not always easy to leave. And I'm not pretending it is.
Definitely not. And like you said, especially during this last 12 months, it's been very difficult for a lot of women. Their home hasn't been a safe space. Yeah. And if you can just tell me a little bit more about actually the work that the charity does and how, for if you are struggling or you are feeling like there's warning signals there, your partner's behaviors change, what Women's Aid, what help out is there?
Well, Women's Aid it's been going for years, as many people know. First of all, I would say go onto their website. They have got so many resources on there that I didn't even know about until I joined as an ambassador. So many resources on there that you can click on that would turn and think, actually, there's a couple of red flags there I need to look into. Yeah, and I know that it doesn't have to be something that you want to go and put yourself out there necessarily to say to somebody. But I would urge many people in those situations, have a discussion with a trusted friend. Majority of people will not be, there's more kind people in this world than nasty people in this world. All you need is a friend to turn around and say, do you know what? Go in there openly, this is what's happening, what do you think? Own your part in the conversation too, because I think it's got to be an open conversation. Yeah. And sometimes it's best to just walk away. So Women's Aid give you all those resources on there, that you can speak up. They've now got a live chat between, I think it's from 8 to 6 every day. There's been given extended funding for that. There's so much on there to help women, and it breaks my heart. And you just said it then, Natalie, and it really, I have to swallow to think that I've been in my property here in North Devon countryside, feeling safe. Might have been feeling a bit trapped at times because that we can't go out to play, you can't go to the shops, can't go to restaurants, but at least I felt safe. And to think that there's been it really nearly brings me to tears to think there's some women and girls out there that have just felt unsafe in their own house, just beyond me. And that is going to be off the back of the pandemic as well, where there's more financial issues, yes, there's cracks in the marriage. All of those things are going to add extra strain on it. So it's about actually, is this down to this, or actually is this something that's been going on for a long time, and now actually we can actually see the truth now?
Absolutely. And like you just said then, it's owning your part. And I know that's very difficult to do. It's so hard to do, but even just to kind of not be afraid, not be ashamed to pick up or send a text or pick up the phone, or just, even if it's, I know it's so hard. I know it's really, really difficult, but just that little message of, I just might need some help could basically change your life, could keep you safe, and, you know, will welcome in lots more support.
Absolutely. And like I said to you, when you head back to something like Women's Aid, which has got the resources on there, and people to contact, and counsellors and everything else that you can contact and communicate via live chat and everything else, you'll be surprised that that little bit of support can just give you a bit more clarity on your situation.
And this is the thing with you, Michelle, is, you know, you are so much about empowering women and empowering everyone really, but, you know, particularly female relationships. We've discussed this before about women being kind to other women and being true, you know, truly kind. And I expect for you it must have been difficult at times when you've been in competition with women, but yet you're friends. Like, how do you deal with that? Like, where does the competition stop? Do you know what I mean?
Of course, because there's always a very thin line. So
Yeah.
my competitors, it was always like Shea Hansen, who was, in my opinion, the best ever female triple jumper. There was always massive respect for her because the bloody girl was brilliant. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yamile, another athlete, really good friends with her on and off the track, but on the track, I guess we would just smile at each other, and as soon as it's finished, we'd be like, right, okay, well, we're going home to eat now. So there is definitely that, but it's about respect. I think is probably the biggest thing. Respecting that each and everybody on this earth has a right. And if that's a right on the runway, we each have a right on the runway. Respect that person. Despite the fact you want to kick her ass and beat her, you've got to respect, you've got to show respect. So, you know, I remember once in being in a competition, somebody moved my shoe. I was fuming. How could somebody move my shoe, which is my run-up mark? They moved my mark. And I was like, how could they do that? Why would you kick somebody's shoe? So that you had to remark it out, and it caused pure drama. And that again was, and it's only now I'm older, I think that's them projecting their wickedness of how they're feeling, their insecurities. And majority of the time, when you're being not nice, not kind to somebody, you have to think to yourself, actually, whose problem is this? It's actually you reflecting your inside hurt of your own life onto somebody else.
How do we protect ourselves from that? Because, you know, as I said at the beginning, you are such a huge advocate of kindness. You did a beautiful campaign with Hello Magazine and the jewellery line, which was just stunning. And, you know, how it is about showing each other kindness, even when we don't feel like it, even when that little seed of envy creeps in. You've got to put it back in its box, haven't you? And go, no, I still want the best for you, even if you are direct competition to me.
I would say to yourself, I don't come from that jealous streak. I used to have that jealous streak with men, actually. When my boyfriend was talking to another woman, I used to feel, that jealousy. And that's, again, my own insecurities. Owning that. That's it. As I've got older and now more at peace and happiness with myself, I'm so happy for everybody doing great. But for women, I never had that jealousy. I never had that envy. I didn't have that. I have admiration for women. So one of my best friends is Denise Lewis. One of the most beautiful black women in the bloody country, babe. She's gorgeous, Denise. She's absolutely delicious.
She is so beautiful. I love her so much.
She's gorgeous. But I tell her and say, listen here, you, fix up, you're not being kind. Hugging up in bed, kissing up, she's my best friend. But we can be honest with each other. And I see her there, shining her glory on BBC, being on here, being on there. I feel like it's me. I'm that proud. Anything she does, yeah, that's my best friend, man. That's my D. Because I want the best for all of my girlfriends out there. I want all of my girlfriends to do well. One of my friends, Guilty Mother, Jo Wimble, she's got a book coming out. I feel like it's me. I'm like, get in there, babe. Yes, I love that. My friend Joss. And I've got friends from all over, Natalie. I want them all to do well in whatever sphere they choose to shine in. But what women have to understand, there's enough space for everybody out there. Men don't do that as much. Women do it.
And I wonder where that does come from, because I feel very much like you. I love seeing people do well. It's one of my favourite things. I just literally want to get the cheerleader squad out and be like, yes, this is amazing. I'm so happy for you. Because I often think as well, you're paving the way for the rest of us behind you who can now follow in your path, who can go and break boundaries, you know, and do amazing things. And if one of us gets ahead, then brilliant. You're making a path for the rest of us. And that's what I often feel like, you know, and I wish other people kind of would see that instead of thinking, oh, you're getting ahead, instead that means I can't. No, it doesn't mean that. It means you can follow and carry on.
exactly. I'm good friends with Clara Amfo, and I said to Clara, seeing that she made, that she had this Barbie doll made for Maytel, I was like, do you know what, babe? I love that. She said, but Michelle, I have to recognize that it was people before me that made the dolls. Dina Asher Smith and Nicola Adams, they made the doll. Black women made these dolls before me, and I thank them for paving the way so that I can now have my success in that. And I love that. We have to look back. If I can be the first person to do something, then of course, then the first one to jump over 40 meters, then I'm paving the way for some to jump over 15 meters, because I'm being the first. I'm paving the way. And I often say, me and my sister-in-law, I'm very close to one of my sister-in-laws, and she said to me, one important thing she says is, when you're at the top, don't forget to send the lift back down.
Yes.
Love it.
I love that. That is so true, as you said, because it is about helping each other up. We spoke on International Women's Day, and for me, it was very much about using what we have available to us to speak up, so that the people in the back who maybe aren't quite as vocal, or they haven't got they're not just quite there yet, they want to be heard, but it might take somebody else to do that for them. Absolutely. Until they find that courage for whatever reason. And it is important that we do unify in that sense, isn't it? It is important that we do see ourselves kind of as a movement, and as you were saying before, about being kind. Be kind. That's all it really comes down to.
That's all it comes down to, being kind. And kindness comes from being secure in yourself as well. Yeah, be secure in your own shit. Sorry, putting it out there. Be secure in your own self, what you're doing. And if you need extra support, don't be scared to go and ask. Vulnerability is strength.
And do you think, Michelle, because you do have a very successful motivational coaching business, and you are a speaker, and I hope you guys understand now why, in the sense that, you literally, you can lift people up. But do you feel like, you had somebody like that in your life with your mum, and it's important for you now, having had the success that you have had, to be able to pass that on, and which is why you've gone into that field?
I think that it was a natural pathway for me from setting up a personal training company 22 years ago to go into mentoring and life coaching. And I love people. Now, I love people. My friends would turn around and say to my best friend, Marcia, say, oh my God, share a bed with Michelle, her spiky legs are all over you. I just love people. I love human contact. That's me. I love people. My husband turns and says to me, oh my God, Mish, my arm's hurting. I said, why? He said, because you're all over me. I love people. Could never be a person on an island. But the point I will always say, and it comes back to, again, that be nice to others, treat people how you want to be treated, number one. Yeah. Find out actually who you are. And that takes work. It takes a lot of work. I'm going to tell listeners out there now, I haven't just landed at this now. Yeah. I've always been nice. I've always been kind. I've always been quite abrupt. I've challenged people, but I've always been nice. I'll go out my way for somebody. No problem. No problem. Because what I hope to do is, one day, if my children or my grandchildren need some form of help or support now, I'd like someone to say, let me give that person a little help up. That's why the mentoring for me is so deep and valuable. When I see those deprived kids in Thanet coming onto my courses with the Dame Kelly Holmes Trust, and they come on there with disheveled hair, broken inside, and then 6 weeks later you see the transformation of them, and you think, bloody hell, that's because of my impact. But actually, it's not because of my impact. It's because they were ready to receive what I had to say. And that's leveling. That's leveling it up.
And like you said then, you've done it. You've done the work on yourself. But not everybody's ready to take that step, are they? And however, it will make a massive difference to your life. If you can actually turn the mirror around onto yourself and actually start looking at you and start going, what's the common denominator in some of the things that could be going wrong? Is it me? Do I need to take ownership? Do I need to be kinder to myself? And actually looking inward instead of projecting outward all the time. That's something that is very important, and that we don't get taught. We don't get taught that. We're always taught, if it's about you, it's selfish. If it's about you, you're making it all about you, and in a negative way, where actually you should say, yes, it is about me, because it starts with me.
And Natalie, you know what? Turn the mirror around onto yourself. I absolutely love that phrase, because sometimes that's all you need to do. Look in the mirror. The common denominator. If that keeps happening to you, ask yourself why. Sometimes people aren't ready to receive the why. They're not ready to look in, because when they ask the why, it comes back to them exactly what you said. And when I'm coaching people and live coaching people, I ask them the key essential questions. Tell me why you want to work on this goal. What difference will this make to your life? How will this impact your life in the future? Because then you truly identify, is that really that important to that person? And you'll be surprised what comes out. They come in with this goal, but then they're looking at that. And it is about turn the mirror on yourself and ask yourself the questions. Is it from your own sad self why you're projecting meanness onto others? Is it that? Is it why, I was then being so defensive, because of my own insecurities when I first met Matt? And if I hadn't, and I'll be honest with you, and I'll be honest with my listeners, if I hadn't invested 2.5 years of digging through and scrolling through what's gone on in my life, why I was how I was, I wouldn't be married to Matt now.
It is so important to be able to own the flaws as well as this, the successful parts of you. Lots of people can't do that, and it is difficult to be able to kind of say, okay, I might be a bit selfish, I might be a bit like this, I do have that trait. We don't often like to own up to our flaws, or things that we just don't like about ourselves, but we have to be able to look at the ugly parts of ourselves, shall we say, to be able to then make it beautiful.
Well, the rough diamonds.
Yeah.
I call it the rough diamonds. You got to have the rough diamond and then be able to smooth down the edges so that the diamond can really shine in its entirety.
And and you as a mum, Michelle, I know you love your children so much, and again, you really invest in them and their futures, and passing on those lessons from your mum. Do you think it's important as well to teach them those values and those morals? And because the world is it's moving so quickly, and with social media and all the things available to them, it's important to root them with kind of some old school morals, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think Natalie, you're absolutely right. I think in today's society where things can get easily dissipated and lost and disappear, even cultural values, knowing where you come from. And I'm talking about really knowing where you come from, not knowing that mommy came from Wembley, daddy came from Wales. No, where did your grandparents come from? What were their struggles? And I think those values, I try and make sure my children remember them, so that when they come across obstacles, they recognize, well, my grandmother came over here at 20 years old, 21 years old, from a country where nobody looked like her. She's managed to end up being a ward sister, a midwife, a social worker, 2 degrees, owning her own house 45 years ago. Yeah. Actually, if my grandmother could do it, and she had less opportunities and resources than I had, what's stopping me? So I do talk, we do share, and I say to them all the time, speak to grandma about her journey, speak to granddad about his journey, speak to them, speak to dad about his parents' journey, because that's the only way that they can really identify and think, gosh, you know what? I'm lucky, because we are given a lot of opportunities. We try our best to give our kids a lot of opportunities. Sometimes, Nat, I'll be honest with you, sometimes you think, what's it all about? Because they do have to find their own way as well. Regardless, they have to find their own way as well. And that's hard as a parent, because we want to protect them, we want to give them everything and but they do have to find their own way, because the world isn't necessarily made up of rose-colored glasses.
As you said then, about Reece, going off now potentially to America. Yeah. And and you're not going to have her in the bubble. And are you prepared for that? Like, how do you feel about that?
Oh my gosh, Natalie, I don't know. Oh, bloody hell. What's wrong with this girl? Why don't you just stay over here? And then, am I holding her back? So I had the opportunity to go to UCLA to do my sport. I was offered 3 scholarships, UCLA, Arkansas, and USC. I chose to stay here, stay in London with my mum. But that was a different home setup as well, and everything else. I wanted to stay around my mum a lot more. For Reece, how do I feel about it? Do you know what? I'm okay, because I know that it's what she wants. And I probably will be crying and sobbing my eyes out when she's gone. But I know it's what she wants. It's what Reece wants. And who am I to stop her from pursuing her dream? Nobody stopped me from pursuing mine.
And I think as well, you know that you've had those conversations with her, you've tried your best to kind of pass on that information. I know when my mum sent me off to university and she was a blubbering mess, and I was like, what's wrong with you? And I was horrid to her, really, and I've apologized since so many times, because she was like, oh, you don't understand. But then she kept saying, I think I've given you everything you need, I think I've given you the tools, you know, to don't stay out too late, you know, not to order this, you know, not to do. And she said she just felt like she'd given the most she could possibly give in terms of a toolkit to me.
I love that she's given me the tools.
And I think that's, you know, that is the best you can do as a parent, isn't it? You know, give them the tools to send them off.
Send them off the tools. And I often refer to, when I'm talking to my clients, I say, all we're doing here now is just almost just trying to fill up our toolbox, so that when you need to take something out to fix something, you've got them there, and that's your resources. So I often use that analogy as well. So I think as parents, once we've given them the tools, it's then for us to let them go and let them fly. And all you hope is that everything you've instilled through your core values as a family, that whenever they find themselves in difficulty or in challenging times or challenging moments, they reflect back to their core values.
And just before we finish up now, you know, in terms of, I think I'm going to know this anyway, but in terms of your inspirational women, and, you know, and the women that have given you so much inspiration to go ahead and be brilliant and be brave and bold, you know, tell me, who are those women?
Listen, babe, sorry guys, I'm boring you. My mama.
Yeah.
My mum's my strength. When I look at her, and I say it now, you know, my stepfather's been past 3 months now, and I look at her and the strength and resilience she's showed at 81 years old and getting up in the morning. She doesn't crumble. Yes, she's desperately sad. Days where she doesn't want to eat. She keeps going. And I think that's the best role model I could ask for. Yes, I have fantastic women around me. I have got the Denise Lewis's, your Donna Fraser, your Marcia Bailey. I've got incredibly brilliant women around me. I have got that. I've got people like yourself that I associate with, Andrea McLean, Alice Living, Benny Bonsu. I've got amazing women that want to help you break through glass ceilings. And all I can say is, I'm one of the fortunate ones. Let's continue this trend.
Oh, Michelle, I love talking to you so much. I could literally keep you here like all day, but unfortunately we have run out of time today. But thank you so much for just being as wonderful and brilliant as ever.
God bless you, my darling. Wishing you guys and your listeners all the very best. Remember, guys, look after yourselves.
Absolutely. Listen, and you know, you can always find Michelle. You can find her on her Instagram. You definitely just go over there anyway, just because the messages that Michelle always gives out will always make you feel better. You've been so brilliant, and thank you for being so honest. We do really appreciate all of your amazing advice.
Thank you, sweetheart. God bless you.
And to find out more about how you can get involved with Women's Aid, please do visit www.womensaid.org.uk. You can find so many resources there, and if you do need help, there will be someone to help you out, to answer a call, to answer a text. So please do head over there. If you'd like more well-being, fashion and beauty, then as always, you can visit us at our website, www.thecapsule.co.uk, where you can also catch up with our previous podcast episodes by visiting the In Conversation page and subscribing to any of our podcast channels and YouTube. Do keep leaving us your rates and reviews. I do love hearing your feedback. There's been some lovely comments, so thank you so much for them. And if you're a social butterfly, you can also catch us on Instagram and Facebook at Official Capsule. I will be back next week with another very special guest, so all that's left for us to say today is goodbye. So it's goodbye from Michelle.
Bye, darlings.
And goodbye from me. This episode of The Capsule in Conversation was brought to you by Harrogate Spring Water. Bottled at source, Harrogate Spring offers a pure, refreshing taste with a delicate blend of naturally occurring minerals and electrolytes, perfect for healthy hydration.